After 7 long years of waiting, Hollow Knight Silksong has finally been released. But how does it compare to the original Hollow Knight? Well, we are going to find out together which Hollow Knight game is the best by putting both games up against each other in a head-to-head competition. There will be a variety of categories both games compete in, and the winner of the most categories will be crowned as the best Hollow Knight game. So without further ado, let's dive into our first category. Story. The story in both games is not told to the player in a very direct way. Instead, you will have to piece the story together through some short cutscenes, dialogue, character interactions, lore tablets, and more. This form of storytelling won't be for everyone, but it is fun to piece together the Hollow Knight lore bit by bit, and a lot of the story elements are left up to the player's interpretation and imagination. That does mean the stories in these two games can be viewed in different ways by different people, but to give you the general gist of what the story is about in both games, for the original Hollow Knight, the Knight, a silent small protagonist with a nail for a sword, will arrive in Hollow Nest, and he is on a quest to stop an infection that has been spreading around the area. Silksong's story takes place after the events of the first game, and you don't need to know the events of what happened in the first game to enjoy the story in Silksong either, which is very good. This time around, Hornet is our main protagonist, and she has been captured by some vicious bugs, who are transporting her to the kingdom of Farloom. Hornet manages to escape from her cage, and she falls down into the Moss Grotto where her adventure begins. She quickly discovers a nearby settlement where she finds out the bugs that captured her were adherents of the Citadel, a religious institution that's at the summit of Farloom that a lot of pilgrims attempt to travel towards. Hornet then begins her own journey up to the Citadel to discover the reason why she was captured and brought to the Farloom. The story in Silksong is a lot more explicit, unlike the original Hollow Knight. A lot more story cutscenes happen, and it's easier to piece together what's going on. Also, Hornet is not a silent protagonist, as we actually get to see her speak to the other characters and exchange conversations, which adds an extra layer to the story and her character. We even get to occasionally see her speak to herself during certain parts of the game. All of these small things come together to make the story of Silksong feel a lot more engaging and interesting. I haven't even mentioned yet how the story is split up into different acts, and there's multiple different endings too, which is all really cool stuff. Our first award is going to Silksong, as it easily has the best story. World/exploration. With both of these games being Metroidvanias, arguably some of the best in that genre, they both have a giant world to explore. Both games also have similar striking art styles that looks incredibly stunning, and it makes exploring these worlds a real treat, especially as your adventure continues to grow in length, as some of the later game areas in both of these games are truly a sight to behold. There's a great mix of dark, gloomy areas and other absolutely beautiful locations in both games. When you enter a new area, you won't be handed a map straight away, not something that's uncommon in other Metroidvanias, but it really emphasises how important exploration is, as you try to figure out the layout of this world for yourself. There's also tons of collectibles, characters, and other secrets to find as you explore, including secret areas hidden behind destructible walls. Some of these secret areas can be massive too, especially in Silksong, where some secret areas can lead to entirely new regions containing hidden characters and even secret boss fights, which is rad as flip. So exploration is one of the core pillars that makes both Hollow Knight and Silksong feel so great to play. But is it more fun to explore the world of Hollow Nest in Hollow Knight or the world of Farloom in Silksong? Well, it's very tough to decide a winner, but I'm leaning more towards giving Hollow Knight the win for this category. The world in Silksong may be bigger and grander, but it feels more special exploring the world of Hollow Knight, especially for the first time. Hollow Knight has some truly iconic areas to visit, and there's some truly memorable locations within Hollow Nest. Crystal Peak with all the beautiful pink crystals, fungal wastes, the orangey mushroom land, City of Tears is honestly a breathtaking location, and there's Deep Nest. Oh god, what a horrifying place. Silksong has lots of great areas too. Some of my favourites include the Deep Docks, Moss Grotto, and Bellheart, even though it's a very small area. I love that the whole place is made out of bells. What gives the original Hollow Knight a leg up over Silksong is that some of the places can feel quite samey in Silksong. Like for example, you have the green mossy area, the green fields, and the green green forest. Don't get me wrong, I still love these areas and I'm being quite nitpicky, but I think we could have had some more interesting distinct locations. Every area in the original Hollow Knight feels unique, they stand out more, and it's just such a joy to explore the world of Hollow Nest, which is why Hollow Knight takes the win for the world/exploration category. Combat. You know how I said exploration is one of the main core pillars that makes the Hollow Knight series feel so great to play? Well, combat is another one of those main pillars. In Hollow Knight, your playable knight character is equipped with a short stubby nail as his weapon, and Hornet in Silksong also wields a nail, except it's much longer and thinner. Both games allow you to upgrade the amount of damage your nail does as you progress, and you can unlock various abilities to help you in combat. Exclusive to the original Hollow Knight are the charms. These basically act like badges, and you can equip a certain amount at a time to give you passive benefits. Some increase attack speed or damage, while others can reduce the amount of soul consumed to use spells or speed up the healing process. There's a ton of different charms, and I recommend experimenting with them as you find them to find the best combination that works for you. Back to Silksong, instead of charms, we have a couple of other new systems taking its place. First are the crests. These essentially act as your base weapon. Crests affect the reach, speed, and damage of your weapon. There's a couple of different crests to obtain throughout the game, and they all feel pretty balanced. I think it's best to pick a crest that suits your playstyle the most. I went with a crest that has medium range, high damage but slow speed, while someone else might prefer a crest with low damage, short range, but it has a ridiculous attack speed. Apart from crests, we also have tools you can equip that are split into 3 different categories: red, blue, and yellow tools. Red tools essentially act as sub-weapons, for example, throwable needle projectiles or spike traps. Blue tools give you passive buffs. For example, you can regenerate your silk faster or auto-apply a shield when attempting to heal, so you won't take any damage. Yellow tools are more utility tools. They don't really help in combat, but they can boost the amount of currency you get from defeating an enemy and other stuff like that. Both games' combat mechanics feel pretty different, but I think Silksong's mechanics feel a bit more in-depth and there's a lot more to experiment with. So Silksong currently has the edge in this combat category, but we can't decide a winner yet for this category as we have to talk about the enemies you'll be fighting in both games. Each enemy type across Hollow Knight and Silksong has a unique attack pattern, and you'll have to learn each enemy pattern if you want to survive. It's pretty fun learning different enemy fighting styles, and the combat becomes incredibly satisfying once you are able to slash your way through tons of basic enemies. And since we are talking about the enemies, we have to talk about the bosses. All the bosses in both games are challenging, they have interesting attack patterns to learn, and they are a ton of fun to fight. I've not done every boss fight in these games yet, as some of them are ridiculously hard, especially some of the ones in Hollow Knight DLC, and there's some bosses in Silksong that I have managed to beat, but they took me so long. Like, we are talking over an hour. I have suffered greatly while playing this game. If you enjoy games with challenging boss fights, you would have a great time with either of these two games. In terms of raw numbers, Silksong has over 200 unique enemies in the game and 40 different boss fights. When compared to Hollow Knight, it was a bit difficult to find the exact numbers, but there are around 150 enemy types in that game, along with 47 bosses. Although bear in mind that the 47 bosses number includes DLC bosses and different variants of original boss fights. It also wouldn't surprise me if Silksong ends up getting DLC that greatly increases the number of bosses in that game, so don't look into the numbers too much. So, which game is going to win this category? Well, I think it has to be Silksong. It's got the more in-depth combat mechanics, and some of the boss fights in that game are exceptional, even if some of them are hard as balls. There was one boss in particular that had a secret second phase that I wasn't expecting, and it caught me completely off guard. I struggled a lot in that fight, but I absolutely loved it. Silksong, you win the combat category. Characters. One of the reasons why Hollow Knight is so beloved is because of the weird but wonderful bug-like characters you will meet while playing. From generic NPCs, merchants, wanderers, and rivals, it's such a joy to interact with each character. Everyone will have their favourites, but my personal favourites are Conifer, the helpful map bug that has an iconic hum that gets stuck in my head, Quirrell, the explorer explorer that can be found across Hollow Nest as he is on a journey of his own, the Last Stag who helps you get around Hollow Nest, Mr. Mushroom, no context needed, and Hornet. In this game, she is an antagonist to the Knight, but as you progress, her relationship with the Knight becomes much more influential in many surprising and mysterious ways. There's a ton of charming characters in this game, but does Silksong continue the trend of having fantastic bug-like creatures? Well, it's a good start that fan favourite character Hornet returns as the playable protagonist, and there's a ton of new characters you will encounter along your journey. One of these is Shakara, the trusty map maker in this game, and she also has an iconic vocal stim that will get stuck in your head. Garmund and Zaza, the darling knight and his steed, can help you in some of the game's boss battles. Little Pilgrim may be a generic NPC, but the conversations you have with them will completely capture your heart. And there's Sherma, a pilgrim on a quest of their own, who is absolutely adorable. One of my favourite moments from very early on in this game is when you meet her for the first time and she is stuck at a gate, and she believes that she has to sing to make the gate open. What you will end up doing is finding a alternative path to get round to the other side of the gate, so that you can open it from there. When the gate does finally open, Sherma will be so happy, as she thinks the gate has opened from their singing. And obviously we know that didn't happen, but this reaction is just so cute. You do you, Sherma. So those are some of my favourite characters from both Hollow Knight and Silksong. But which game has the best characters? Well, I think it has to be Silksong. I love all the new characters in this game, and they feel way more involved this time around with the story and for when in battle. It's also nice that Hornet actually gets to talk and interact with these characters, instead of in the original Hollow Knight where the knight remains silent while the other characters have one-way conversations with you. You get to know the characters and their personalities a lot better in Silksong thanks to this. So Silksong wins another award in the characters category, soundtrack. For our final category, we are going to decide which game has the best soundtrack. This is my favourite category to do in these which is best videos, and both Hollow Knight and Silksong have incredible music. There's a great mix of beautiful atmospheric pieces to accompany you while you explore, and there's some great catchy battle themes that will make the boss fights feel even more dramatic. There's not a single bad track across both of these games, but some stand out more than others. So let me highlight some of my favourites, starting with City of Tears from the original Hollow Knight, one of the most highly praised tracks for how truly beautiful it is. Sticking with Hollow Knight, I have to shout out my favourite battle track in this game, Nightmare King. This organ-heavy piece of music sounds vicious, it's dramatic, it feels a little bit spooky, and it really intensifies this fight. Now jumping over to Silksong, we have Lace, one of the most catchy battle tracks in this game. And finally, we have Bellheart, which also comes from Silksong. This is another absolutely beautiful song. I love this one. So those were some of my favourite tracks from across both games. There are many more tracks I could have chosen to highlight, but we have to pick a winner for this category. This is very tough, as either game could win here, as both games have the same level of quality when it comes to their music, so it's really just down to personal taste. And for me, I think that the winner of this category should be the original Hollow Knight. There are so many iconic tracks, there is no bad song within here, and I would even go as far to say that this is one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. So Hollow Knight wins our final award in the soundtrack category. Okay, now that we have gone through the categories, let's now crown our winning game. The original Hollow Knight won 2 awards in the world/exploration and soundtrack categories, but our winning game, taking home 3 awards in the story, combat and characters categories, is Hollow Knight Silksong. It was very close between these 2 games, and I do highly recommend recommend playing both of them, as these are some of the greatest video games ever made. But Silksong is our winner, and being able to finally play this game felt truly amazing. I've loved my time with it so far, and it is everything I wanted and more. The 7-long-year wait was definitely worth it. But some people unfortunately think that Silksong is one of the worst games ever released. If you want to find out why, then go check out my Silksong hilariously bad reviews video. Some of these reviews are generally really funny. You won't be disappointed.